suit today, the one that shouted, "I mean business, and don't even think about it, mister." "Lulu," she called, only to discover the French bulldog already sitting right by her feet, ready to go. Another creature of habit. She leaned down to attach the lead to Lulu's hot pink collar, studded with diamante, spelling out her name. Bea didn't approve of Lulu's accessories. "Darling, she's a dog, not a child," she'd said on numerous occasions. Iona was quite aware of that. Children these days were rather selfish, lazy and entitled, she thought, not like darling Lulu at all. Iona opened the front door and called up the stairs, as she always did. "Bye-bye, Bea. I'm off to the office. I'll miss you." The advantage of boarding the train at Hampton Court was that it was the end of the line, or the beginning, depending, of course, on which way you were travelling. There was a life lesson there, thought Iona. In her experience, most endings turned out to be beginnings in disguise. She should make a note of that one for the column. So, the trains were always, as long as you arrived early enough, relatively empty. This meant that Iona could usually occupy her favourite seat, 7th aisle seat on the right, facing forward at a table, in her favourite carriage, number 3. Iona had always preferred odd numbers to evens. She didn't like things to be too round or convenient. Iona sat down, putting Lulu on the seat beside her, and began arranging her things in front of her. Her thermos, filled with green tea, just chock-a-block with age-defying antioxidants, a bone china cup and matching saucer, because drinking tea out of plastic was beyond the pale in any circumstance, her latest mail, and her iPad. It was just 10 stops to Waterloo, and the 36-minute journey was the perfect opportunity to prepare for the day ahead. As the train became busier and busier with each stop, Iona worked happily in her little bubble, wonderfully anonymous and blending into the background. Just one of thousands of identikit commuters, none of whom paid her the blindest bit of attention. Certainly no one would talk to her, or to anyone else. Everyone knew the second rule of commuting. You may nod to someone if you've seen them on a significant number of occasions, even, in extremis, exchange a wry smile or an eye roll at one of the guards' announcements over the tannoy. But you never, ever talk. Unless you were a nutter, which she wasn't, despite what they said. An unfamiliar noise made Iona look up. She recognised the man sitting in front of her. He wasn't usually on this train, but she often saw him on her return journey, on the 1817 from Waterloo. She'd noticed him because of his exquisite tailoring, which ordinarily she would have admired, but it was rather ruined by an extraordinary sense of entitlement, which only really comes from being white, male, heterosexual, and excessively solvent. This was evidenced by his penchant for manspreading, and talking extremely loudly on his mobile phone about the markets and positions. She'd once heard him refer to his wife as the ball and chain. He'd always get off at Surbiton, which struck her as a little incongruous. She gave all the passengers she recognised pet names, and he was smart but sexist Surbiton. Right now, he did not look quite so pleased with himself. If anything, he seemed in distress. He was leaning forward, clutching at his throat, and emitting a volley of sounds somewhere between a cough and a vomit. The girl sitting next to him, a pretty young thing, with red hair in a plait, and dewy skin that she no doubt took for granted, but would, one day, remember fondly, said rather nervously, "Are you okay?" He was, quite obviously, not okay. He looked up, trying to communicate something to them, but his words seemed jammed in his throat. He gestured towards a half-eaten fruit salad on the table in front of him. "I think he's choking on one of his strawberries. Or maybe a grape," said the girl. This was obviously an emergency. It hardly mattered precisely which piece of fruit was involved. The girl put down the book she was reading and patted him on the back between his shoulder blades. It was the sort of gentle pat that was often accompanied by the words, "Good dog," and not at all what the situation required. "Here, do it harder," said Iona, leaning forward across the table and giving him a hefty thump with a closed fist, which she found rather more enjoyable than she should have done, given the circumstances. For a moment, there was silence, and she thought he was better. But then the choking sound started again. His face had turned a mottled purple, and his lips had started to lose their colour.